I wonder if this is hot. No, I'm not going to test it. Do you think I'm a knucklehead? Hey, this is Big Bill. Welcome to Model Railroading Live, the #1 model railroading show in the world. Why am I yelling? I don't have a clue. It's Wednesday, the 5th of May, Cinco de Mayo. I hope you guys are having a good time. I hope everybody's out there is safe and well. We have a good show for you tonight, a very good show with a special guest. Also, just want to give you guys a heads up on a few things that are coming up. Oh, man. Uh, Tomorrow, May 6th, Thursday night, 9 p.m., will be Johnny's Train Talk Show. Johnny will have a special announcement to be making tomorrow night on his show. So it would be, I think you would be, if you tuned in to hear the announcement. But tomorrow is Johnny's Train Talk Show, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the MRL channel. And you guys can be a part of it. Like I say every week, you guys can be a part of it, just like we're doing right here. And hang out with Johnny. You can bring and brag if you have something you want to show off, and you know, or you have a question about some modeling thing you're doing, or you have a question about weathering. Usually, Ralph, the Mudfather Renzetti, steps in, and stuff like that. So tomorrow night, Thursday, 6 p.m., May 6th. He'll also be on again on May 20th. So that's 2 times this month. But tomorrow night, he'll be doing a special announcement on his show, about his show. So it would behoove you to tune in tomorrow to find out what that announcement is. Before we enter, and what else do I have to say here? I knew I had a few things on my cheat sheet here that I got to share this with you guys. I just got this book in the mail, Brooklyn Waterfronts. It's a 1988 book. It was published in 1988. It's about the Brooklyn waterfront and stuff like that. But when I was looking for this book on eBay, on Amazon, wanted $980. $980 for this book. I was like, are you out of your mind? And then the cheapest I found, it was $75 and $50. But then I went, I have it right here. I have the bill of sale right here. Model, let's see. Yeah, Model Train Market. Model Train Market. I bought it for a whopping $22.83. $22.83. That amazing? That's the internet for you. That's the internet. Before we bring our guest out tonight, and he is a special guest. He's in the back. He's in the room there. I hope he's not trying that gasoline station chicken, because it's been there for a few days and stuff. Oh, yeah, Mojave Model Railroad. It's good to be back on the air live. And Bill, Nancy, and the Spirit of Colorado Railroad Enscaler, I reached out to you via email a while back. I have to check my spam locker to see if it went there. But please forgive me, Nancy, for not getting back to you and stuff like that. But anyway, I want to welcome all you guys here. Let me see who's here, so we can do this correctly. Nancy and the Spirit of the Colorado Railroad is here. Eric Hall's here. Let's see who else is here. Balu is here. Good morning, all. He must be on the other side. Container Man 68 is here. John Benecki is here. Human City Junction Heath is here. The Pixel Dump Depot. Mr. Parker's here. Hello, Mr. Parker. Let's see. All the rest of you guys, Ken Amos, all you guys that are here, rounds, trains and things. Good. Hello to see you. Before we get started with our special guest, and I know you guys are biting at the bit, we have something new and different that we're going to be trying on our MRL shows, especially on Johnny's Train Talk shows and Who's Big Bill Talking To. It's a little thing, a clip called Tips and Tricks. And tonight, Tips and Tricks is brought to you by Miles Hale and the University of Model Railroading. So take it away, John. No sound, John. No sound. I can't hear it.
Okay. Let me see what I can do.
Yo.
Technical difficulty, and we'll play it tomorrow night.
All righty. Hey, we're sorry about that. We've run into a little technical difficulty there. That was due to the fact that this was our first time doing it, and we're getting used to this system just as this is getting used to us. So, with that said, I want to introduce my guest for tonight. My guest tonight is Bernard Heller. He's the owner, operator, chief cook, and bottle washer for Miniprints. Welcome,
Hello.
Bernard. How are you tonight?
I am wonderful, Bill. How are you?
Very good. You are the chief cook, proprietor, manager, the whole nut and caboodles of Miniprints. Is that correct?
That is correct. Chief Miniature Officer.
Chief miniature officer. That's good. I have some of your product here. I recently ordered some other stuff that's coming, but I recently ordered these. See if you guys can see that. I ordered some. Can't really see them that well, but they're seagulls. They're for my harbor scene.
They're mini.
They're mini seagulls, and they're very, very well done. Very well done. So our guest tonight is Bernard Hillen, and he's the owner operator of Miniprints. And he's very excited to be on the show because if you guys have a Facebook and see him on Facebook, he did a whole big splash page to advertise that he's going to be on tonight. And I am so honored and a privilege to have you on. I'm so glad that you're happy to be on here with us. And thank you for taking time out of your busy, busy schedule to come and be a part of this.
A long-time listener, first-time caller.
There you go. There you go. Now, Bernard, your other interest in model railroading, as I obviously can see behind you, is you do have a model railroading.
I do.
And is it what scale is that?
I model an HO scale, and I model the Quebec Gatineau, which is a Genesee and Wyoming short line, and I model the route between Quebec City and Montreal up in Canada.
And what is the kind of like size?
I'm in a room right now. The main part of the layout is a room that is basically 30 feet long by about 10, 12 feet wide.
Oh, that's a nice piece of real estate you got there.
It is. I'm lucky to have. Whoops! It goes through other parts of the basement as well, but this is sort of the main room. And I actually hadn't been down here in about a year, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah, it was pretty messy, so I spent all day today cleaning up for you.
Oh, well, thank you very much for that. That's greatly appreciated.
I've been spending an entire year with 3D printers, and I'm afraid to say that the downside of starting a model railroad business is that you don't have much time to model railroad.
Yeah, I kind of got that feeling from other entrepreneurs who have gone into the manufacturing end of it. It seems like it takes a lot of their time and effort.
Well,
But
I'm happy to say that after a bit of track cleaning, things actually still run.
well, that's good.
Yeah, I was surprised. I was amazed. Few spider webs.
That's all right. They have to make their home someplace.
Yeah, exactly.
Ron's Trains and Things says, Model Railroading Live, Bill, your birds are huge compared to the N-scale elk I ordered. Yeah, well, it's HO. So when did you get into model railroading? What was your genesis?
I had a layout for like 5 minutes when I was 8 years old. My dad and I built a layout, but it didn't really last. I think, at 8, I probably didn't have the fine motor skills to do anything, and just watched a train go around in circles. But it's something that always stuck with me, and it was about 7 years ago that I decided I wanted to get back into the hobby.
Oh, okay.
And so this is I started off with a 4x8 in this room, and I built that to a Byron Henderson track plan. And that lasted about a month because I knew I'd love it. So I ripped it out and I basically put a 12-foot extension onto the 4x8. And then I put another 10-foot extension onto the 4x8. And then I ripped it all out and I built this one. So this is my third first layout.
Your third first layout.
Yeah.
Okay.
I knew that I wanted to get into operations. So I knew that watching a train go around in a circle wouldn't last too long. So then I got ambitious, and ironically now I'm kind of feeling like I want to go back to a module.
It can become overwhelming. Overwhelming.
Exactly.
When you look at the scope of it, it's like, oh, what did I get myself into here?
Yeah, it's expanded. It's my next 20-year project.
Timothy Wayman wants to know what is your minimum radius on this?
For visible, probably 26 to 30, somewhere in that range. I was playing around with 24s, and then I knew that the equipment would run on it, but it doesn't look good. So the radius that is probably the smallest is an inside curve, so it doesn't look terribly crappy. But I tried to keep the visible radiuses, half decent. I mean, if I run passenger equipment around it, it's not going to look super prototypical, but it works.
Oh, that's okay. Now, this is a double tier, right?
Yeah. So the layout basically, the way it works is I wanted operations for point to point, but I wanted continuous running because I like the zen of a train running around in circles.
Right.
So if you'll let me actually sort of take this for a little bit of a ride, if you want a quick sort of.
Sure. Let's do that. Let's go on the 65-cent tour here.
Yeah, exactly. Has everyone bought their tickets?
I don't. Yeah, they did. At Canadian rate, though. They probably got.
Yeah. It's okay. So
that's all right.
Well, we Canadians can't afford the U.S. prices.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So that's your lower deck, and this is your yard. Oh, we lost the sound.
Yeah, I hit mute. So I focus on the port of Trois-Rivières. So the main concept for the railroad is basically interchanging at Trois-Rivières.
Right.
Okay. And then I've got a number of industries on the layout, and you can see back here, there's a cement industry. All my industries are prototypical. They all exist on the main prototype, roughly where they're supposed to be. But then I ran into a problem because I needed it to sort of continuously run. So basically what it does is it goes back through this room,
Right.
spins around. This is the turnaround right here. This is going to be a farm, like a pastoral farm scene. And then it comes back underneath here. And this is where I've got my staging yards.
Oh, okay.
So under here, I basically have 5 westbound staging tracks for 5 trains and 5 eastbound staging tracks. And the staging tracks are fairly long. I'd say you could probably put anywhere from I forget the exact length. I've got to go back and measure them. I'd say easily like a 10 to 15 car train, easily.
Right. Very
and
nice.
I'm a short line, so that's fine. I mean, I'm just doing small trains, shoving cars around. So basically, you go through here. It sort of has a gentle grade behind coming back up, and then it comes out over here. So it's kind of like a 1.5 turn helix on both sides that allow me to basically get the continuous running.
Okay.
I don't know how I ended up with this sort of convoluted mess, but it works.
Did you do the track plan yourself, or did you get it from someone else?
No, I did it myself with the help of some very good friends. So I screwed it up myself, and then I had a couple friends who actually know what they're doing fix it for me. And one of them is actually a civil engineer who lays out track for the railroad. So that was handy. So it's good to have someone who track plans in 1-to-1 scale actually fix it for me.
Yeah, exactly. Comes in, shakes his head, and says, "You got some cold cuts and beer? We're ready to go to work."
The height between staging and the deck below. It's a good question. Like I said, I haven't been down here in a year. I would say I tried to make it, if you want like the actual clearance, I'd say about 14 inches. Like I need to be able to get in there. So
yeah, sure, absolutely.
The layout height is.
That's a good height. Yeah, that's a very good height.
I think layout height.
42 inches.
No, I think the staging I built at 48, and then I realized that was too low. So I think, well, let's see. I'm 5'8" So, geez, you're asking all the difficult questions. Hang on one second.
Well, you got to admit, guys, that is a pretty impressive layout, and we haven't even gotten to his business of Miniprints yet. So that's pretty cool.
Did you chat amongst yourselves?
Yes, we did.
All right. So I would say layout is about 50 inches.
Okay.
So layout height is about 50 inches. We're at 40 inches for the bottom deck. And between them is, well, I guess that would make it, if with simple math here, we got about 10 inches, 10, 11 inches.
Okay.
Between them. So it works.
It works.
Yeah.
TC Adams says, "Hey, Bernard, great to see you. Eagerly awaiting delivery of those Bathtub Madonnas. Other goodies as well. Very excited."
That was a special request. That's going to be fun. I'm going to list that on the site.
Are you?
Yeah, that was a special request to do a... Well, I actually didn't even know what a Bathtub Madonna was. I mean, I've seen them before, but I didn't know they were called Bathtub Madonnas until I Wikipedia'd it. And that's the amazing thing. That's why I love this hobby. You're always learning.
Yes. Eric Hall of IMRRO.com says, "Usually you can find height on your driver's license."
The height of your layout?
Well, the height of yourself, I guess.
We do it differently in Canada. They don't put layout heights on driver's licenses. They should, though. I like that.
uh, let's. I'm trying to see what Drew. What did you say that was so? Oh, what's the height of your? No, you didn't scare him. He went to get a ruler,
No, I went to get the big guns here.
the big guns, to see what we were doing.
Yeah, the dusty yardstick.
So now you have this layout, right?
Yes.
And you've built this layout, and it's still a work in progress, obviously.
Yes, it's definitely going to be the 20-year anti-Alzheimer's if I ever retire project.
So how did this lead into creating your own business, Miniprints?
That is a great question. So there's a little part on my layout, and I will show it to you again. Try not to hit the mute button. I don't know if you guys can see it, but right here. You see that?
Yes.
Okay, so that's a little beaver lodge. And I was building this scene, and this goes back probably about 4 years. And I was looking for a beaver, a little HO scale beaver. And would you believe they did not exist? I Googled HO beaver, which, by the way, I do not recommend you Google, or you will have explaining to do.
I hear you.
And I couldn't find one. I could find O scale. They existed in O scale. But nobody, I went to Prizer, Woodland Scenic, all the usual suspects. And there were no HO scale beavers, which is ridiculous because, it's on, you can see right here, it's on the Canadian Pacific Railway shield. It's the animal that built the nation, and they're everywhere. We even have them in Toronto, believe it or not. And we're the fourth largest city in North America. And I mean, they're ubiquitous. And I couldn't find one. So I am a recovering graphic designer. I know my way around a computer. So I got some design software out and modified a few pixels and, tweaked and, sent it off to, at the time, Shapeways. And, 3 weeks later, I got a tiny little piece of plastic back for a ridiculous amount of money. And I was happy. And, fast forward to just over a year ago, and I'd always been interested in these 3D resin printers, or 3D printers in general. And I started to see on a Facebook group, what these sort of inexpensive resin printers were able to do. So I thought, okay, I had the one pose, why don't I get one of these sort of cheap resin printers, modify it, come up with a few friends for my guy over there, and I posted online. And a few friends said, yay, those are nice. Can I have them? I gave them out. Then I did a Facebook post, and I said, hey, I've got these little tiny 3D printed beavers. Who wants them? I couldn't believe the response. Orders started flooding in. And that's how, from that little, beaver lodge over in that corner, Miniprints was born. It all started with a little Canadian beaver.
Miniprints.
That's it.
Yeah. And I love the way you package them.
I hate breakage. It's the worst thing. You spend so much time and energy building these things, and the post office is brutal. With these things. So yeah, I cannot. I don't want things to break. So packaging is really important.
Yeah, and this is a pretty sturdy package for dealing with this. I know that I've ordered from other companies 3D printing, and they stick them in like little test tubes.
Yep.
But they're even hard to get out. But when I saw this, this even makes even better because I can reuse this.
Yeah. I'm going to run a contest. Somebody sent me a picture of their little Miniprints container, and they had their guitar picks in it. So I'm going to run a contest. I'll give away like a $50 Miniprints gift card or something. And I'm going to run a contest later on, probably a couple months. Haven't figured out when. What do you use your Miniprint boxes for? And get people to send in their pictures. And the most creative use of the little box, will win something.
That would be a great idea. That would be a great idea. And so then the business started, and then unfortunately we got into the pandemic, and everything just went downhill from there. But it went downhill in fact of your job in a sense,
Yeah, well, my marketing business went to zero. So, I mean, I work with small business, and, it's hard to, small businesses can't, pay to market their services when they're closed. I mean, my business went to zero. My bread and butter, regular pay the bills, feed the kids business went to zero. A year ago at the exact same time, that I started selling these little tiny beavers on Facebook. So I kind of fell into it by accident. I never intended to start a business printing, tiny little things, mini prints.
And since that time, has it exponentially, like,
I'm closing in on 1,000 orders.
really?
Yeah, like and my 1-year anniversary was April 1st, believe it or not, April Fool's Day. So yeah, I'm having a ball. It's, like any small business, it's, half the income, double the work. So,
Right.
It's no one's getting rich here, but it's fun. It's, and what else? I mean, we're in lockdown in Toronto. And it's been pretty bad here. So, I mean, to sit at home, and make wonderful, fun, creative things and get completely inspired. I mean, I love when people say, can you make a Bathtub Madonna, for example? And then, you go deep into the rabbit hole and, you start playing with things, and then, there it is. It's like you want to sort of put it on the fridge and scream, I made something,
May I ask what a Bathtub Madonna is?
It is literally a Virgin Mary statue in a bathtub. If you Google it, it's a thing. Like, people put it in there. They basically create their own shrines and they put it in their front lawns.
Oh, yes. Yes.
I have no idea what, I mean, you're going to have to ask the, you're going to have to ask the client who requested it. Maybe we'll get a picture of the scene that he's working on. Maybe TC will share with us, what he's planning to do with it. And, that's the other thing is I love seeing pictures. And when you put your Seagulls on the layout, you got to snap the picture and send it in. Because I always post pictures. I love posting pictures of what people are doing.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, I know exactly what you're saying, because in Bensonhurst in Brooklyn, they call that Mary Frank DeLauro, Mary on the half shell.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. You got it. So, and that's the beauty of 3D printing. I mean, if I can digress for a minute, I mean,
go.
These 3D printers have allowed us to model things and create sort of one-offs. I doubt that any commercial company, big, real company, is ever going to come out with a Bathtub Madonna. But now, if you dream it, you can do it. If you see it in the real world, we can shrink it down.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Legend Driver C. He says he just Googled it. I think you're new to this channel or new to the show. Thank you for tuning in, Legend. It's greatly appreciated that you're here. Mojave Model Railroad. Tina says, just say he has a green alien, a gray alien. Nice. Yep. Yes.
I love the weird. I love the weird and the odd and the fun. Aliens, Sasquatches. My goal was not to recreate the same things that everyone else has.
That would be, let me think, that would be propane tanks.
Propane tanks. Exactly. Everybody's got 3D printed propane tanks. Don't get me wrong. I need some. I've got a propane distributor on my layout and I will print some, but I don't feel the need necessarily to create and sell things that people can get.
Yeah,
I something, a little bit more, novel and fun, and I want to sort of create a little niche.
Yeah, true. Frank DeLorio says he wonders if I would save him this box because his lovely wife Yvette needs it for something.
No, well, you're getting another one, Bill.
Yeah, but
mailed your order yesterday.
You just ruined it, Bernard. You just now she knows I got 2 of them, so now I got to give it.
You got it. Then again, you also get them to by Bathtub Madonna.
Yeah, there you go. I was at a train show many years ago in Edison, New Jersey, and I remember there was a guy, as you walked in the door, there was a guy standing at a table, 4-foot table, and he had a 3D printer.
Yeah.
And everybody was coming around and saying, "What is this?" And he was saying, "This is the next best thing that's going to happen to your hobby."
That's
And they were
amazing.
like, "What is it?" And they said, "It's a 3D printer." And everybody was like, "Oh, 3D. Yeah, I've seen those on YouTube. Yeah, you can make a wrench and you can do that. And you can." And I started talking to this guy, and he was telling me that he's not a model railroader. He is a salesman. He told me at the time, "I have sold everything from ladies' underwear to cars, expensive cars." He said, "This thing I cannot keep on my shelf with you guys." He said, "With you guys,
Yeah.
you model railroaders, you figured this out, and you guys are buying these things off the shelf from me. I can't keep up with you."
It's going to change your hobby for sure.
And absolutely.
Now, there is a risk, though, because it becomes a hobby into itself. So I am a cautionary tale. By all means, go get one. They're cheap, they're fun, they're messy as hell. But it becomes an addictive hobby unto itself. So the time that I've spent, now it's my new small business, so I love it. But it definitely sucks time away from the train hobby. And everybody I've talked to who has gotten a 3D printer goes down the rabbit hole. It just becomes a whole new hobby unto itself.
Dude, really?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Ah.
Yeah.
Well, for you guys tuning in late, this is we're interviewing Bernard Helen. He's the owner operator of Miniprints. They are a small company that does HO and scale 3D printing of mostly animals, but what you recently gotten into, you're starting to do a few other things that I think are pretty interesting.
Do you want to see the newest one? I just painted it up tonight. No one has seen this yet.
Sure.
Nobody's seen this. So world exclusive. And yes, Scott, messy is an understatement. Failed print. So I've got 3 friends in the model railroading hobby who bought 3D printers. One went down the rabbit hole and has stopped working on his layout because he spends more time on his 3D printer. One said this is ridiculous, gave up, and I now have his 3D printer. He gave it to me because he didn't want to spend the time. And one I think is surviving. So it's there's the statistical, the group of 3, you know.
Right.
So this is my absolute newest print. It is, I'm so excited about it. I will show it to you. Worldwide exclusive here. Let me just get it ready. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see it.
Oh, yeah, that is sweet. That's a push pedal on a rail.
Rail bikes.
Rail bikes, yes.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm working with a really, really, really talented designer in Sweden. She has absolutely the best bike on Thingiverse. It's called the Any. I think I'm going to say it wrong because it's Swedish, but she's got this great bike. So I went to her and I said, "Listen, you know, it's on Thingiverse, but I really want to sell it on Miniprints." So we worked together. We came up with some variations. We modified it, and she had created a rail bike. And I said, you know, can we work together on it? So she did the frame. And so the frame is her design.
Nice.
And then I did the figures and I put the figures on it. So to my knowledge, you're seeing this here first. No one has ever done a rail bike before.
But you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Tom Dubas says he can't wait for the beer and flying pigs to show up. Well, when they do.
I think that's already gone. I think I threw that in the mail. I think that's already gone out. So should be within the next week or 2, I would think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You know what a beer is? Well, besides this, A beer is a cross between a bear and a deer.
Oh,
Yeah. So it's a bear with deer antlers.
it's a bear with deer antlers. Pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. I've also got jackalopes. Have you heard of the jackalope?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. So the beer is like a jackalope.
Nice.
So these are the types of things that are kind of fun, odd things. Now, obviously they're also, you have to have, I'm pretty much known mainly for my animals,
Right.
so things like,
The swan.
swans, things like that.
Jo-
Yeah.
uh, I just had him up here. I don't want to lose him because I think it was a good question. Joe Chiason asked, "Does it become a hobby in itself because of the learning curve?"
Yeah, the learning curve and the time. And it's fun, right? So, it's like kind of like kits, when you buy too many kits and then you have all these kits you have to assemble.
Yeah.
And I know guys that spend a lot of time like just going to shows and buying stuff.
Right.
Right. And then you get a mountain of kits.
Yeah.
Well, you can also do the same thing with sort of getting a mountain of prints. You just keep printing things for the layout, and then, they pile up and you have to paint them. And, then you forget that you're actually, you got to actually get them on the layout.
Yeah.
I can show you a few other things on the layout if you want.
Eric Hall says, "I'm not any good with the organics, aka people, animals, and plants, and etc."
That's really tough.
Jim Dustin wants to know, what's your design software?
Everything. I mean, there are probably about 10 different programs, but I'll tell you the main one I use is called Blender. Blender. It's free, and it's really powerful. It's probably the most difficult piece of software I've ever tried to learn. So I can only use basic stuff, but it's really powerful. You can do everything in Blender. And there are tons of them out there. There's Tinkercad, and there's Fusion, and there's more than you can shake a stick at.
Scott Thornton says it's addictive because you can create your own models as needed.
Scott knows. I think Scott recently jumped into it and bought a 3D printer. So he knows what he's talking about.
Container Man 68 says, in regards to the Mountain of Walters, he says, "I have a Mountain of Walters well cards, 5-unit kits that I need to trade or sell."
Good to know.
Drew Dudes, say that fast 3 times. Model trains. Blender is the best in his opinion.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely the software. If you're going to pick one and invest time, it's not the easiest, but it's probably the industry standard, most powerful. But depends what you're doing, right? I mean, if you're designing, battery boxes and air conditioner units, different software for different types of applications.
Sure.
Yeah.
And since you've been doing this what is the most unusual request you've had to design something?
Well, there are a few that I can't mention on air.
Okay.
There are a few that I've said no. I'll tell you what I won't do. So I try and stay away from things that are already done. So if someone says propane tanks, I'll say, listen, here's where you can get them. There are lots of guys doing it. I don't need to spend time doing something that's already out there. I won't do, unfortunately, licensed figures. So I'll get a lot of people saying, can you do Spider-Man? Can you do Iron Man? Can you do, I don't want to sort of get Disney or anyone after me for doing, licensed stuff, unfortunately.
Right.
So that's not. There have been a few slightly questionable things, things that might not, let's put it this way, if you were to post it on Facebook, you might go to Facebook jail.
Right.
So there are a few things. In terms of weird, well, they're all wonderfully weird. I mean, I want weird, right?
Right.
The weirder the better. I mean, Bathtub Madonna, I don't know whether you'd call it weird. It's different. It's odd.
It's different.
I like different. I mean, here, I don't know whether you'd call this weird, but someone asked for Adirondack chairs.
Now that's that would be something you cannot normally find.
Yeah, I mean, that was my thought. Look, everything, I'm sure everything, let me get my little black box here. Hang on. So, I mean, I thought this one was kind of neat. You know, I don't know whether it's weird as much as it's kind of wonderful.
Yeah.
You know? And that's HO scale. So everything I make, everything is available in HO, S, and O scale. Okay. And most stuff, because I know you got a lot of N scalers, most are available in N scale. So I try and do everything. Certain things just aren't going to work in N. You know, there are things that are just, you know, that I can barely get out in HO. So I have on my miniprints.ca website, and now you can go to miniprints.com. So it's both now.
Here's a good question from Michael Highsmith.
Go for it.
The hobby needs more construction worker hard hats and vests in various poses.
I can do that. Yeah. Yeah, totally. And so everything I printed is either something that I want for myself, like the rail bike, because this is I keep seeing in upstate New York. There are rail bike things, and I'm trying to grab my kids and my wife and go and do a rail bike adventure.
I have done it up in the Catskills. They have this.
I keep cruising those websites. So this is kind of my wife and I. Hold on, you can see we're holding hands. I don't know if you can see that, but so this is something that inspired me because I want to go do it. Then, you know, the Adirondack chair, for example, was a request. So everything that I do is, and I love requests. Here's a request. Hang on. Actually, I'll see if I can turn the computer around. So most of this stuff is requests. So I don't know if you can see it. Can you see this guy right here? Is he in the frame or is it too small?
It's a little tiny.
Okay, here, let me pull him off the layout. This was a really fun request. So this is
lumberjack.
Yeah. Yeah. So a guy had a logging railroad and he said, I want lumberjack. So I did 3 different poses.
Cool.
So yeah, so stuff like that, you know. Hard hats, absolutely 100%.
Human City Junction Heath wants to know, do you use filament printing only, or do you also have resin?
Only resin.
Only resin.
Yeah. Only resin. Yeah. Filament is good for certain things. For example, if you're printing in, you know, really large scale, like G scale, or if you are, you know, printing throttle pocket holders, something big, then yes, that'll work. But for the level of detail, you have to go resin. I mean, you know, I'm printing off, you know, really fine detail that'll only work on a resin.
Ron's Trains and Things says, my favorite and most unusual is the well-endowed Sasquatch.
The well-endowed Sasquatch, interestingly, is actually prototypical. So if you go to the Patterson, Grim Patterson famous footage from the 70s, that sort of blurry California, you know, the one that actually proved that there was a Sasquatch, apparently.
Right.
It's a female. So when they say well endowed, it's actually the famous video of the Sasquatch is a she, and she's busty.
Ooh.
Yeah. She's prototypical.
How long, here's a question. How long does it take once you get, like, say if I said to you, you know, I want an Adirondack chair, or I want a lumberjack from scratch. How long does it take for you to make one of those?
Depends whether I sleep or not.
Okay.
No, like the Bathtub Madonna came in at the perfect time because I already had a bathtub.
Okay.
Right. So the Bathtub Madonna was doable because I'd already designed a bathtub, and I knew that there were like 1 million sites that had statues, freeware. Like some of the stuff I designed myself, some of the stuff is royalty free. You know, like so the neat thing here is everybody's got a 3D scanner in their pocket. So I have actually, there's an item on my website, some hound dogs. And that hound dog is a 3D scan of a statue that my parents have in their house. So they've got like one of these, 100-year-old bronze hunting hound statues. And I just scanned it, with my cell phone, and then used that as the basis to make these things. So a lot of stuff like the Bathtub Madonna came together quickly because I'd already done the bathtub. Somebody wanted a bathtub for their cows. Sometimes you see bathtubs out in the field and the cows. So I had the bathtub. I knew that I could get the Madonna pretty quickly and royalty free, pretty easily. So then it just becomes a matter of, putting the two together, making sure it works. The biggest amount of time is testing it. So you'll design it, you put it on the printer, it'll fail. You'll rejig it, you'll put it on the printer, it'll fail again.
Right.
And when you're printing these things, so here's the well-endowed Sasquatch, right? There she is. You need to create these supports. So you can see there's a sort of a superstructure.
Right.
So when you design it, you have to create the supports here. And it's this support thing that you usually get wrong. And sometimes you have to orient it like this, or like this. So between the orientation and the supports, there's a lot of trial and error. And that's what sort of takes the time. So you design it, that takes a bit of time. Then you print it, then you try it, you prototype it. So sometimes you can go back and forth, 4 or 5 times before you get something that consistently prints well.
Yeah,
here it is in N scale. So just to give you an idea, O scale and N scale.
Right.
Right. So it really depends. Now, something complicated like this guy here, a friend in Sweden did the bike frame, but then I had to do the figures. That was a lot more complicated. That took a lot more time. And then, you print it out, and of course it fails the first X number of times. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get something that will consistently print well.
Glass, we have I think this is a new gentleman or new person that's come on to the MRL. He says most people underestimate FDM way too much. Small animals might be a stretch, but a lot of HO scale details can be printed with a small diameter nozzle. Okay.
Yeah.
28. So what New Haven Rails, the name of your website is
Miniprints, miniprints.ca or .com.
.com.
Do you want to go see it? I can share my screen if you want to see it.
Sure, let's go. Let's
rock and roll.
Yeah, let's go.
I'll fire it up quickly if you want to see it.
I do, and
Okay.
I think the rest of us do too as well.
Sure. Let's see if we can do this. Share screen. Let's do a Chrome tab, and let's do Miniprints.
Let's see. Not yet. Container Man 68 says, I went to a toy show back in November in Hayes, Kansas, and 2 different vendors were telling me that when the pandemic hit, the government asked them to print up personal protection equipment. They had 20.
Yeah. All right. So I see it on screen.
Yes, I see it as well.
All right. So I'll give you the 5-second tour here. So I've come up with a couple of categories. So birds, animals, people, oddities, objects, and vehicles. So, birds, I love doing birds. I always find that there are not enough birds on layouts. I mean, you see them around in the real world, but, here's, I guess my number one selling is probably this guy here, the Canada goose. Just because they're everywhere. That's right. My number one selling animal. I love these. Just because they're, you can put them anywhere. You see them in parking lots. You see them, They're an urban animal. They're a rural animal. You'll find them in Minnesota. You'll find them in New York City. They're everywhere. So let's go back. So birds are fun. And I find that there are not enough birds commercially available. So I've got quite a lot of birds here, pheasants and osprey and, silly things like penguins and pheasants, and the ravens are fun. If you have a graveyard, you need a few ravens.
Yes, you do.
They're your seagulls right there.
There they are. Yes.
Yeah. And, everybody, I see so many great waterfront kits, and they're beautifully modeled, and there are no seagulls. You're never going to see a waterfront scene, in real life without seagulls. Right?
Split Rock 323 says, my first mini print order is on the way. I need 2,543 Canadian geese.
You got it. We'll talk.
Yeah, there's a pricing on, right? You say group pricing, multiple pricing. Yes.
Volume discount.
Volume discount. Yes.
So then animals, everything from under the sun, all alphabetical, from elephants to badgers to beavers that started all, the first one. The bighorn sheep are really popular for folks that, model out in Colorado or, the Rockies.
Yeah.
I love doing things like cow skulls. Like, the company is called Miniprints, so the smaller the better. Some of my favorite things to design and come up with. There's the hound that I mentioned is a scan from from the statue. I love doing like really small things. Here, like squirrels.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So then we get into stuff like the fun stuff, what I call the oddities, So these would be, there's the beer we talked about, the aliens. My son wanted a headless horseman on the layout, so that was a request. Loch Ness Monster, you got to have a Nessie. This is kind of the official mini print, I think, of 2020.
The Plague Doctor.
Had to create one of those.
Yeah. Indian Head Valley Railroad wants to know, do you have any wild turkeys?
Yeah, I do. Absolutely. So in birds. Yeah, in the birds for sure. And then the area that I'm getting into now, I think the area that's the most fun, and where I really will probably add the most, just because I think, I like doing it, are the people.
Yeah.
And I think one of the areas that I've really had a lot of fun doing, I don't know whether I can switch tabs here. Let's try doing it this way. I came up with because I model current day operations. I tried to look for some prototypical railway workers who were actually doing railroading current day. So I put a call out on Facebook, and I wanted pictures of contemporary model railroaders. So Nick sent in this awesome picture of him, riding on the tail end of this gondola. And that inspired me to come up with this figure down here that you see. So here's HO scale Nick on my layout. And I've come up with this line of what I call custom crews. And they're really prototypical modern day railroaders doing their thing.
Right.
And that's just stuff I wanted, right? And stuff that I couldn't find. So that's kind of the fun stuff.
Now, when we order from you and you deliver it, it is unpainted. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's unpainted, and that's it's for a couple reasons. I'm an okay painter, but there are way better painters out there, like way better painters. So I don't want to screw up your figure if you can do it better. Plus, it's kind of the fun part, and everybody will interpret it differently. Like, I didn't realize that there's actually a difference between the blue safety vest and the orange safety vest. And it's different. In Canada, I think green, we'll call it, means something different. I think it means novice in Canada, whereas in the US it means experienced. And the orange, and I'm probably getting it wrong, but the point is, you're going to interpret it your own way. And I want, that's the fun part, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now I'm trying to convince my 15-year-old son is an amazing painter. He paints like D&D miniatures.
Right.
He's better than I am. So I'm trying to convince him that a great summer job would be painting up mini print orders. And then you'd have an option of sort of buying it painted or unpainted. And it would be, you know, a summer job for him to paint them up. But I haven't quite convinced him that, you know, working painting for the summer is a fun idea.
Well, he entice him with he can make his own hours as long as he gets them done.
Yeah. Well, it's a work in progress.
I hear you. I'm
going to stop sharing now because actually there's one more thing I will share if I can.
Dwight of Northern Star wants to know, can you make owls as well? Do you have owls?
I have owls. I do.
All right. Late Night Model Railroad says, I like the conductor on the rail car.
Yeah.
And you also do the forensic guys too. And
I love that. Yeah. It's so much fun. There have been a few murder scenes on people's layouts.
Yeah.
And if you want to get inspired with what people have done here, I'll just go. I want to show people a good place to check it out is, I don't know if you can see, this is my Miniprints Facebook page.
Right.
So facebook.com/miniprints3D. And this is where there's you.
Yeah.
You're there. This is how I paint figures. So you can see right there. The eyes are the hardest. But no, I'll always post pictures of what people have done. So you'll see some really great, you know, past all the stuff here. You'll see, I have to go back a bit, but you'll see pictures. I'm just trying to find one. Of course, you can never find it when you're looking for it. But pictures of what people have painted, and it's really inspiring. So here's one, Dick's Lobster Trap, right? I make HO scale lobsters. So he bought some O scale lobsters here. And this is Rick Smith. Bought some O scale lobsters that he used for the sign, and then some HO that he used here on the plate. So I really get inspired by examples of what people have done. Oh, they're the bikes I mentioned before. The Enly bike, Enely from Sweden. But if you want to sort of see what other people have done, here's you know, one of the guys hanging off a car, beautiful layout from Sebastian SG. So the Facebook page is a great place to go. And if you send your pictures in, absolutely 100% I will post them because I love posting pictures.
We definitely would. Frank Delorio says it's always good to have a few severed body parts around the layout. People who have wandered upon the tracks, you know. Nancy and the Spirit of the Colorado Railroad N Scaler says, I really need a Cougar for my layout. I cannot get a Cougar anywhere. I'm an N scale.
Cougars are available in N scale. And I should mention that if you go to miniprints.ca and scroll down to the very bottom of the page, there's something called the N scale gallery. And it's a listing of everything that's available in N scale. And Cougars are available.
Cool.
Yeah. I try and do, and if you see something that you want in N scale that is not listed on the layout, email me or Facebook message me. And chances are I've tried it and I couldn't do it, but there's always a chance that it's like a new item that I just haven't tried in N scale. So I'm always happy to try and print it out in N scale.
Late Night Model Railroad wants to know, is there a woodworker with a table saw? That would be clutch.
That would be very cool. That's a great idea. And if you want something, I typically work from photographs. So if you have a prototypical, I mean, you can see my email right there on the screen. Bernard@miniprints.ca. Email me a prototypical picture and I'll see what I can do.
Yeah, that was great. Okay, thanks, he says. That's really cool. That's really cool. And, you know, and in doing this opens up because what's happening, you know, with, I think with you, Bernard, in this, and I think you've, you know, kind of related without even saying it, is that you're open to ideas and new things that are, you know, that like, you know, just now, hey, listen, text me. If it can be done, I'll try it. If it can't, I'll tell you it can't be done.
I'm like, you know, it's like I've got two dogs. They're kind of like hunting type dogs, hunting hounds, and they're like always like squirrel, squirrel, squirrel. Like I'm
Right, right.
it's like shiny object, ooh,
Yeah,
yeah. So I do like I absolutely do like the challenge, and yeah, Ron, you're right. N scale elk, they weren't available, and you inspired me 100%. That's a perfect example from Ron of Ron's trains and things. You should follow him for tips, tricks, and
Yeah, we do. We do. Rod's trains and things. We do.
yeah, he asked if I could do the elk, and I honestly I thought no way these things are gonna turn out. I can barely get them out in HO, but yeah, for sure.
Eric Hall wants to know: can you make me an N scale Ron Mosh figure?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll have to talk to a Ron Marsh licensing representative for that, but yeah.
What Jim Dustin wants to know: what is the names of your printer?
Do you want to see them? I'll take you into the printer.
Yeah.
Sure. I hope I'm not giving people vertigo.
I took my medicine. I took my medication.
All right. I don't want this to be
that the medicine.
I don't want this to be a Blair Witch project.
This will have a happier ending.
Yeah, hold on. All right. I will show you the printers. So I use the Elegoo Mars, and I've got 3 of them. And these are resin printers. And then I have a really large, what's called the Elegoo Saturn. And this is about 3 times the size. So here, let me just hang on. So the way it works, let me see if you can see. So that's a vat of very toxic, very, very nasty liquid photopolymer resin. And what happens is you've got a build plate here. And you can see the build plate. You can see it's decreasing in height right now.
Right.
It goes into this sort of goo. And what it does is it then basically builds, it's photoreactive. Let's just show you it going in the goo. Then I'll come back to me. Okay, so you can see. So it goes in there and then it advances upwards. And what happens is, let me go out of the noise here. It uses UV light and it projects an image on basically a cell phone screen, and it cures the resin in layers. So you're building up thousands and thousands and thousands of layers by basically photo exposing this photosensitive resin. And so you basically have, we'll go back to the Sasquatch. If this is, you can see that's the flat part there. This is attached to the build plate. And you basically have the thing emerging out of the goo layer by layer. And it's actually prints upside down like that. So basically the first layer here would be the tip of the head, and then it would go layer by layer by layer by, actually, no, sorry. The first layer would be the foot here. And then it would go layer by layer by layer by layer this way down. And then the top of the head would emerge out of the liquid resin. And then you have a whole process of cleaning and curing. And then it's, takes a while to sort of, there's a lot of pre-processing, post-processing, there's a whole sort of rigmarole to get this thing. In terms of resin, I stick with the Elegoo. Well, I use the Elegoo resin, but I've come up with sort of a custom mix of a couple different resins because I'm looking for strength plus stability plus, I like to mix them to get different resins have different factors, different properties.
Uh-huh.
The printing process is probably far more toxic than I'd like to know. I do vent. I probably don't vent as much as I should. But the other thing is full PPE. So I didn't do it right now, but pretty much every time I go into the printing room, it's respirator, it's eyeglass protection, it's nitrile gloves. This is not the type of thing that you just take and do on the kitchen table. It's absolutely, it's nasty, 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 nasty stuff.
Would you say
you don't want to get it on you?
Would you say it's nasty?
It's a little bit nasty.
A little bit.
Okay. A little bit nasty, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I hate that. I hate when it's nasty like that.
Yeah. It's not good stuff to breathe or get on your skin.
Ooh, what if it does get on your skin? Does it burn? Is this a burning process?
Well,
a chemical burn?
Yeah, I think the issue is yes, but the issue is more you can build up. It builds up in your system, so you can build up an intolerance for it. So I've got it on me and nothing happens. You just, rinse it off quickly. But if you get enough on you enough times, you can actually get like a sensitivity to it.
Oh. Eric Hall, IMRO.com wants to know, what kind of brand of resin do you use?
So the Elegoo.
Yeah.
My go-to is the Elegoo Standard Gray. Then I mix in a few other properties to give it strength and stability and color and things like that.
Late Night Model Railroading says, that's amazing. How many prints can you create in a day on average? I know it depends on the size of the prints, etc.
Yeah. I print everything to custom requests. So, I mean, it's freshly printed per order. So when you call in and say, I want something, I might have some inventory of my most popular stuff, but I pretty much, I pretty much print it as needed, but it really depends. So a little guy like this Sasquatch here, the N scale one, that might take, an hour to print, whereas the O scale might take 4 hours to print.
Huh.
So if you have these two on the same plate, on the same batch, you got to wait the 4 hours until this one comes ready. So you kind of want to print, all your small things. I printed something the other night that was probably, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch, and it took me 15 minutes. But then something that's, couple inches, like 2-3 inches, I can take 5-6 hours.
Really?
So it comes down to how tall it is. I mean, I've got 4 machines. So if all 4 machines, are chugging along, and it happens occasionally that I'll just get, I put together something called the Miniprints of the Month Club. And that's a little custom box. And every month, I've got a number of subscribers that for $24.99 US a month, I put like a little collection together and send it out to them. And I try and make the collection, worth significantly more than the $24.99. So I've got a bunch of subscribers now. When it's Miniprints of the Month time and it goes out on the 15th, I can tell you all 4 printers are going nonstop. So it depends what I'm printing. I have had all 4 going a number of times. It's kind of fun. That's where it gets exciting.
Right.
It really depends. It depends what I'm printing and how high it is.
Eric Hall says it will burn you under sunlight and UV light.
Yeah, you'll cure it right on your skin, and that's pretty nasty.
Yeah. He also says print speed is based on the Z-axis, X and Y point as a single layer.
That's right. So it's going this way.
Right.
So it depends how, if you've got an N scale beaver, I could probably print that in 20 minutes. If you've got an O scale elk, that's a good 5 hours.
Right. Ken Amos Jr. BNO_51 says varies also by how thick each layer is. The thinner the layer, the more detail, but longer print time.
Yeah. Yep.
Indian Head Valley Railroad wants to know, can you do the leg lamp from the movie Christmas Story?
You know what? It's funny because I've had that request a number of times, and I would think yes. I would think that would be no problem. I can't believe that would be. I mean, a leg lamp's not copyrighted, so just don't ask for it in N scale, please.
Yeah.
But yes, I could certainly try that. I mean,
what? Okay,
that would be relatively easy, I think, to hack together.
Yeah. just want to give a big shout out to Otis O'Toole. He's from Princeton, West Virginia, USA. Hello, Otis. Nice to have you aboard. Dwight of Northern Star wants to know, what can you do about waste disposal?
It's a big issue. Yeah, it really is, because you certainly, I'll tell you what you don't do is you don't put it down the drain ever. Like, you just don't. So there's different types of waste. So once the stuff is cured, it's safe. So you can throw it out in the regular trash once you expose. So say you go through a lot of paper towels, right? Because it's messy. So if you take your paper towel and you put it outside in the sunlight, the UV in the sun will cure the resin, and then it just becomes plastic. So then it's you toss it. It's wasteful, but you toss it. It's not toxic. Where the big issue comes in for me is the way you wash it. So these things come out of the resin, right? And they look like the alien in the movie. They're dripping with goo, and they're really sort of primal looking, and they're messy. So you've got to clean them, and you clean them. The most effective cleaner is isopropyl alcohol. And I go through a lot of isopropyl alcohol cleaning these things. But then you're left with this like really, really toxic mix of isopropyl alcohol and resin. And that's the biggest waste product that you've got to figure out a way of getting rid of properly. And you basically have to take it to facilities that are set up to properly handle it.
Now, if you're washing it in the alcohol, right, and you let it, and you're washing it in a tub, plastic tub, if you let it stand, does the resin sink to the bottom?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
So
I reuse some of my alcohol a number of times.
Right. I was going to say, could you strain it through a mesh, and then if you wanted the plastic to cure, you can put it out in the sun and it will.
Yeah. I mean, you still have somewhat. I still like to dispose of the stuff properly. I mean,
I gotcha.
I mean, and you still have isopropyl, which is flammable and nasty. So I just take it to, we're lucky we have, municipal places where you can drop off hazardous waste.
That's good. Eric Hall says Pyrex backing dish to cure the resin out of the IPE in the sun. Yeah.
And I tried it once. I stole one of my wife's mason jars, and I put a big thing of isopropyl in it, and I stuck it outside, and it kind of, all the resin in the bottom became kind of a sludgy mess. And some of the isopropyl evaporated, but then it left me with this like sludgy mess mason jar. So you still have to figure out a way of getting rid of the stuff.
Right. It says Ken Amos Jr. BNO_51 says, pour the alcohol into the sawdust pile and set it in the sun.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So that's pretty. So there's an endeavor here. I mean, you're really working.
I do 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. every day or longer. Yeah. I mean, this is
really, you start that early in the morning.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, the dogs wake me up, sure. But,
yeah.
I mean, it's fun, right? I mean, that's the thing about. The thing about a hobby business is that you do it because you like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm already thinking like, a few things. I'm like, oh yeah, hard hats. That's, construction worker. The ideas start coming. And people,
right.
You start, so like, I'm not going to run upstairs and turn on the computer at 10:13 Eastern time. But you want to. Like, I get into the design process. As I said, I'm a recovering graphic designer. So
right.
When it doesn't feel like work when you're doing it and you enjoy it.
Late Night Model Railroad says, ha, the dumping dogs are fantastic. He says, I might have to get a set and paint them up and send them to my father. He hated cleaning up after the dogs growing up.
I live by the rule, there's a prototype for everything. So
yeah. Split Rock 323 wants the question. He says, what does a customer have to do with their order to prep them for painting? Do the prints come with all the structure supports?
Great question. Very good question. So the most time-consuming part of this is my job is I have to clip all these off. So you'll see when you got your Seagulls, they're clean. They're clean. I can't send it out like this because I probably, for everyone I send out, I don't know, like I print way more than I actually send out. And it's a very wasteful process because not everything turns out. And you spend 5 minutes clipping them out and then, his arm will come off or something. Right. So I won't say it's, for everyone I print, if I print 2 and send 1 out, it's not that bad. I've gotten better at it, but it would be very frustrating if I were to send it out with the supports and the average person wouldn't have the experience, the time, the patience, or the luck. So I snip it, and sometimes it takes me an hour or 2 to put an order together. I mean, it's very time consuming.
Right.
Which is honestly why, and a few people say, this stuff's expensive, and it's expensive because it takes forever to produce an order. Orders it's a handmade process. I mean, these are little tiny handmade works of art.
Yes, they are.
These are not things that just sort of pop out of a mold and get tossed in the mail. So
right.
Everything, sometimes, I'll spend, an hour just snipping it. It also doesn't help when you're a bit of a perfectionist or, a detail freak. So I won't send it out like this because I want the customer to have a great experience. And I don't want you to be like, snipping it out and, snip the wings off your Seagull. Cause then you could be like, that's no fun.
Yeah.
So I do spend a lot of time cleaning them up. In terms of painting, I do have a clinic that I did that you can find on my website. It's miniprints.ca/clinic. And it goes through all the steps. But the short answer is when you get it, spray paint it. Give it a quick rattle can. So I'm a big fan of rattle can spray painting. So just give it a quick shot of, a rattle can gray or a rattle can khaki. Let it dry and then just paint with regular acrylics.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of people send them just like that, like you have there. They don't clip them. I know that for a fact because I've bought them from other, and they send it with instructions on how to clip those things off, which I find very frustrating.
I could probably get away with it with O scale, but here, I'll show you something. So these are the supports here. Let me get that little rail car I sent you.
Right.
Or I showed you. The rail bike. There are the supports. Whoops. There is no way. There is absolutely no way that if you have to sort of practice and understand. And if I sent this out with all those supports on it, I mean, you're gonna snip an axle by accident, or it's just too frustrating. I wouldn't do that. I like my customers. I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting that Split Rock is saying that people send them out with supports. I mean, I just think, I don't know. I kind of, I want to go out perfect. I want it to go out perfect so that when you get it, you're happy and you just paint it.
Yeah. Otis Tooley wants to know, can you make a fire pit that you could put LED lights into it?
100%. And that's totally doable. But then again, and it's a situation like that. It's a great idea. And I thought about it. But why not just get a bunch of sticks, glue them together and stick the light in there?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, it's a great idea, but there's sometimes it's like, people will say, can you 3D print a building? It's like, no. Styrene, wood, build it. It's some things I think that the 3D printer does very well. And there are other things where, if I was approaching a fire pit, I'd go out, I'd get some twigs, I'd snip them down, I'd put the light in. Nothing is going to look more like a twig than a twig.
That's right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
I could do it. And if you want it, I'll do it. But I think, in that instance, you might be a little bit more successful, using wood.
Late Night Model Railroad says the time spent snipping and preparing is money. No one has an infinite hours of time that has to be compensated for somehow. And he says, and your prices look very fair.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And if
Yeah.
anyone really would like to try snipping them, no,
please leave a note in your order.
you can go through the hell that is post-processing.
Right. Exactly right.
It's not the fun part.
No, it's not. Well, Bernard, I want to thank you very, very much for being on the show tonight. It was an absolute pleasure and very knowledgeable, and I have certainly have learned a lot, and I'm sure the community has learned a lot. It's Miniprints. This is Bernard Helen, and he owns the business Miniprints. It goes to his website. Can we get the website up on the screen there, if you guys can? Bernard at miniprints.ca or .com, right?
Yeah. I just got the .com, and I will be actually transitioning to the .com as the primary.
Right.
But for now, they all end up at the same place. And if you want something, email me or message me on Facebook. I will try and do it. If you see something that is available in HO and you want N scale, shoot me a note. And if you have bought from me before, please send pictures, post pictures. I love seeing the finished scene. It's what inspires the business.
Yeah. Splitlock 232 says, I personally want to say I really appreciate your sponsorship during the NMRAX events. Well done, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mojave Model Railroad, great show, great guest, and awesome products. Thank you, Bill and Bernard from Ken Amos. Indian Head Valley Railroad, think leg lamp, HO scale.
I'm thinking. Drop me a note so I can get in touch with you either on Facebook or by email.
Yes. Well, thank you again, Bernard, for being on the show. I really do greatly appreciate it, and I'm sure our community greatly appreciates it. Just so you guys know, tomorrow night, May 6th, we're going to have Johnny's Train Talk show, and he's going to have a special announcement, and we're going to run the tips and tricks from Miles Hale from Model Railroading University. Apparently, you saw a little of it. It was on the lamps from Woodland Scenics that they put out. I have a few of them on my layout. They look absolutely great. So tomorrow night, 9 p.m., Johnny's Train Talk show. And then the following Tuesday, the Pixel Depot will be on. Joe Parker. He's got a YouTube channel. He's going to be on next Wednesday night for Who's Big Bill Talking To. In the meantime, go check out Miniprints on Facebook. Give a shout out to Bernard if you need something. Apparently, he's willing to work with you. No idea is too strange or too out of the, left to the discretion if it can be done and if it's in good taste. And stuff like that. Right. And whether it's in good taste. Also, just to remind you guys out there that Model Railroading Live does have a Patreon page. So if you would be so kind as to check it out, maybe donate, maybe become we're working out the details on this thing about what to give away and stuff for monthly stuff. So don't be disappointed if you put something in and you don't see something you're going to get. We're working on it, but we do have a Patreon page. So, if you guys want to, go check it out at patreon.com. Look under Model Railroading Live. And in the meantime, again, thank you, Joe. Thank you, Bernard, for being on the show. I want to thank Ari McKeeva, who is working with John. And John, thank you for great production. And Ari, great production tonight. And thank you for all you do. And to you guys out in the community, if you ain't watching, we're just talking a dead ass. So you be well, you be safe, but most of all, you be blessed. Good night, and we'll see you on the radio.